Entertainment.
The government has put a lot of store in its rural school bus program, saying it will change the game for rural dwelling students who have difficulty getting to school because of the inconsistency of transport and, of course, the costs involved with being ferried to and from school on a daily basis. Buses are portioned right across the 14 parishes, Kingston, St. Andrew and St. Catherine, with the most number of buses, 10 each, to cover these schools in those parishes. But the opposition said the plan is not best thought out and the resources put into the rural school bus program would be better served under the plan that they have to implement if they take the reins of government after the next general election. So, the opposition spokesman on education, Senator Damian Crawford, has journeyed to our studios to illustrate how his plan is better than that which is being implemented by the Holness administration. His lead story, Wednesday style. More after this.
At the heart of the dispute is the government's $1.4 billion investment in 110 new school buses, 25 of which arrived recently. Opposition Senator Damian Crawford blasted the plan as untargeted and inadequate, arguing it will only serve a fraction of the students in need. The university lecturer insists it's just not adding up. In fact, based on his calculations, he deems servicing 328,000 students daily an impossible task during peak hours alone.
If it is to service 328,000, you would have to make 328,000 divided by 4,800. It would have to make 68 trips each day. So based on Bakasapava's calculation, his bus system in the period of 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. would make 68 trips. Each bus would make 68 trips. And the total, all buses would make 68 times 100, 6,800 trips per day. That is impossible, Bakasapavas. And it is a shame that both the Minister of Education and the Minister of Finance were in line nodding with this ridiculous calculation.
But on several platforms in recent weeks, the minister slammed the opposition for what he deemed their negativity towards the initiative, insisting this will provide a solution for students in rural parishes struggling to get to and from school.
258 schools, 328,000 students in the first phase. Within 2 years, we will be able to cover the 850 schools. 650,000 students will be able to go to school every morning.
Meanwhile, in a hotly worded quick calculation video by the PNP making sense of the proposition, Crawford contends the government's plan simply won't work, at least not how it's so far been marketed to the masses.
100 buses can transport on a daily basis 328,000 students. Now please remember, our students go to school every single day, and so they will need that transportation. Now it is impossible that the bus can make 68 trips per day. Now to the contrary, if Bakasapava says that each student would not get the bus each day, then of the 190 days that the students are supposed to go to school, they would be able to access this bus only 3 days of the 190 days if it is going to service 328,000 students. So, Bakasapavas, there's nothing correct about what you have calculated.
The buses powered by compressed natural gas are part of a broader plan to deploy 300 units over 3 years. Students on PATH will ride for free, while others will pay a flat $50 fare.
Thank you very much. And just an editor's note, the buses displayed in the piece done by Nika are not the actual school buses. Those are the JUTC buses for regular transportation. The school buses, of course, are much different and have been retrofitted with the door moved moved to the other side to facilitate pick up and drop off here in Jamaica. Well, we get into the details after this break with Senator Davian Crawford.
Days, challenges are everywhere and things are constantly changing, but independent living remains the same. Rising above physical challenges, we can help you do it. For years, we have been Jamaica's trusted provider for solutions to improve patient care, safety, and the general quality of life. No matter your age or your physical limitation, we are the caring store, waiting to serve you. It's time to experience independent living. Visit us today.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Come rise with sunrise. Let Miss Kitty and Dennis make your Thursday brighter. First up, calling all parents, we check into Camp Summer Sizzle. Then we're serving up something fiery with Captain Kidd. It's back to the house for Homing It with NHT. And we wrap your morning in Kids Unfiltered, powered by Sunshine Snacks. You've never seen a sunrise quite like this.
Welcome back to Lead Story here on CVM TV on this Wednesday. So we're about to do some mathematics now, not arithmetic, which most people do every day and say they're doing math. Not doing math. We're doing math today. And Senator Davian Crawford, who is a mathematics teacher, is here. He's the opposition spokesman on education. And just understand, it is necessary to interrogate ideas. There's nothing wrong with interrogating ideas. And in this season, but all the time, you expect that when a government proposes to do something, that the opposition will have an informed perspective on whether it is correct, whether it's the best use of funds or not. Senator Crawford has advanced the idea that the government's plan lacks direction. It is imprecise. It is not the best spend where taxpayers' funds is concerned. And he's not just saying that, not just throwing that stone at the plan. He says he has the numbers to support his arguments, and he's here this evening. Thank you, a teacher. Take me to the numbers. Yes. Now, why do you say, what's the basis for you saying that this plan is not the best use of
Okay, well, first let's set the context.
Yes.
Both parties have put forward a concept about how to improve absenteeism as it relates to students getting to school through easing transportation woes. The PNP have gone further to say including easing food insecurity. So the aim is to reduce absenteeism from school as a general aim.
Yes.
The PNP made a proposal in Julian Robinson's presentation, and then Darrell Vaz came to make a proposal under the JLP's heading.
And Robinson's proposal was reinforced by the opposition.
By the opposition leader 2 days after in his budget presentation, called East. So thereafter, Minister Vaz tried to suggest that the number of people served is a basis upon which the JLP's proposal is a better proposal.
I stick up in, because Vaz's plan is right here.
Yes.
100 routes, 258 schools, 328,000 students in phase one, 650,000 students by phase two. So he's taking incremental steps, he's saying.
And he's suggesting that dwarfs the PNP's proposal of 20,000 persons getting $2,500 as a subsidy. We will discuss all the other realities outside of the maths later on.
Very well.
Now, the first reality one must accept is that this is a ridiculously concocted idea, because there's not 650,000 students in secondary and primary schools in total. The total number of students in secondary and primary schools in Jamaica is 447,000.
Very well.
So I don't know where he's going to import children to transport 650,000. Worse in the rural area. So again, that just shows that it is a highfalutin and concocted, because the facts belies it. However, when we look at the comparison, he has 100 buses, actually 110 buses. However, 10 is being reserved to replace buses, and that's a good idea.
Very well.
Yes. So he has 100 buses in operation each day, right? So that is why you call it rollout. So you have available and rollout. 110 available, 100 will be rolled out. And he says 1 per route. Good. Now, what we did was to use the breakdown of buses that he indicated, because not all of the buses are the same size.
Yes.
So he has 72 seat, 50 seat, 30 seat.
Yes.
And we did a weighted average by multiplying the number of buses in each category times the number of seats and divide it by the total 100.
Excellent point, because people should know that the 100 buses are not 48 seaters.
Yes, not all of them are 48 seaters. Good. But the average seat per bus is 48 seats, right? The few will be more and a few will be less. Good. Now, the period of transportation, because there's a school system, is between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m.
Because school call 8 o'clock.
Because schools call at 8 o'clock, right? And there are examples of that that is in current operation from Linstead to Spanish Town, and a bus leaves at 6 a.m. It returns for 8:30 and then carries adults thereafter. Good. So therefore, we have indicated that. The second assumption which we have to clear up is that there's 2 maximum trips
in this window of 6 to 8
in this window of 6 to 8. Now, the maximum trips is either an assumption that there will be stops along the route, or that they will come and go back twice.
And the trip means go and come, go and come.
Go on from terminus to terminus.
Very well.
Good. All right. So in this case, Linstead to Spanish Town is from Linstead to Spanish Town. Good. Now, if 48 buses exist with 100
buses,
seats, 100 buses, it means that the total seats available is 4,800. So that is the total students if it is maxed out.
Very well.
If you can do a maximum of 2 trips, which the evidence have shown, it is that the total within this period is 9,600. Now, this is dwarfed by the PMP's proposal of 20,000 students to be. So the duty of the opposition, therefore, was to first highlight the flaws in the plan, but to defend the fallacy that the JLP would have been able to transport way more than the PMP would.
And if you look over there, really step back for me, Senator Crawford. So based on 328,000, divided by 4,800, 68 trips, 6,800 trips per day. What's happening right now?
Yes. So Mr. Vaz said that each day they will transport 328,000 students, right? Now, with the capacity of buses, 4,800, right? And on every trip to carry the full 4,800, it would have to take 68 trips between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. and 8 a.m.
That 2-hour window.
Right. That is impossible.
Yes.
Now, the counter argument is that you can not the same student will be satisfied each day.
Yes.
So therefore, you can say there will be difference. Now, remember, all students go to school Monday to Friday.
Yes.
Right? We don't have any 2-day school or 1-day school. So if it was supposed to be done in that way, each student can only benefit 3 days of 190 days. That's what in accounting call immaterial, unnecessary to be stated. So therefore, the plan of the JLP is dwarfed by the plan of the PMP on just the mathematics alone.
All right, stick up in there, because just as I approach work, I want to make something clear. So 9,600 students per day, it's not that the PNP's plan is to move them in the way Vaz's plan is suggesting to do. Rather, the PNP's plan is to provide a benefit.
Yes.
So you're saying that Vaz's plan to move X number of students is inferior to the PNP's plan to provide a benefit to students.
Both mathematically and logically.
Yes.
Because 2 problems exist for transportation: affordability and availability. In particular, rural communities, there are some farming communities that don't have 2-way travel, making it unprofitable.
When you say not have 2-way travel,
all right. So the kids are moving out of, let's say, Ty-Dixon,
Yes.
but there's no redirection of traffic into Ty-Dixon.
Yes.
So a private person would go back empty,
Understood.
and by extension not see the benefit of running that route. Profitability would be affected. So these rural areas, especially where the adults go to their ground, quote unquote, and don't come out of the community in droves, reduces the profitability of the route. Now, if you look at this plan that Vaz have to say, we're going from, Minister Vaz, my apologies, that we're going from Linstead to Spanish Town. Those children in the interlands, which have the highest level of absenteeism, 55%
Yes.
deep rural absenteeism,
Yes.
30% rural absenteeism, right? Now, those people would still have to get to Linstead.
Yes.
So, therefore, the affordability
Yes.
is not their issue coming from Ty-Dixon, coming from Moloch, coming from Wande Bolas.
Yes.
It is the availability.
Yes.
And so, when you subsidize it in this way, you can subsidize vehicles going into these communities.
Hear you on that. We have to take the break. You're right on time. Let's take the break and come right back. This is Lead Story on Wednesday. We're doing math.
Is paving the way to becoming a republic or future or choice. The time by the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs is
6:45.
Our guest today has competed in 5 Olympic Games. I'm talking about Jamaica's most decorated swimmer. It's none other than Aaliyah Atkinson. Do you know that Jamaica is very proud?
But I never got that while I was swimming. In 2014, I was the first person of color, male or female, to ever get a world record in swimming.
Wow.
And I was like, seriously? And you take the little girl from Jamaica to do it?
We're really looking at something and saying in 2020 something, there's a first black person to do something. You are that person.
Swimming is another obstacle that we need to overcome. I think as a nation, living on an island and having so many gullies and rivers and lakes.
Hey, you're to the gullies, you know?
At Hawkeye, we work hard to develop state-of-the-art security solutions like our new Total Connect smart home automation system that gives you 24/7 access to control your appliances, lights, cameras, and doors using your smartphone, tablet, or PC. As the most trusted electronic security company in Jamaica, Hawkeye has the fastest response times to get to you when you need us most. Trust Hawkeye's Total Connect. Hawkeye, securing what matters most.
Back with us here on Lead Story. We are in the dying embers of the program, just enough time to just wrap the points up. So let me put this one to you, Senator Crawford. You said as you went through the 2 plans, you mentioned the P word, profitability. But of course you know that public transport is something that in a democracy, well, in any kind of a government, it's a loss leader. It's not a profit-making enterprise.
Right.
So Minister Vaz could very well say to you, well, it's not about making profit. It's about eliminating reducing absenteeism, and of course
and
ensuring that people can afford to go. You won't have to choose to say send that one here today, send that one here tomorrow, because I can't send both of them the same day. So profitability is not an issue. So he would say you can't evaluate his plan against that background.
No, and I'm not evaluating his plan against that. Indeed, I'm suggesting that because of the private sector's profitability, they are unwilling to go into some spaces, and it therefore falls to the government to create a solution for that availability or unavailability of transportation in those spaces. So I'm not expecting the minister to be seeking profitability from the routes. I'm saying that those routes that are left unattended to because private sector has no interest isn't going to be benefited by this. In fact, the minister's routes are competing with the private sector routes that are already being serviced in the main.
But he would tell you that those routes that the private contractors are servicing, the children are at a significant disadvantage because they're not given priority. And he says the reason for people turning up late and perhaps not being able to get to school any at all is because the private interests prioritize the adult fears, me and you, and don't carry them. And he's putting in a solution that guarantees a child a seat on a bus.
And that solution would only satisfy 4% of those children. And by extension, it's an immaterial amount. It will be ranked miscellaneous in an accounts document. So therefore, his feeling that of every 100, they will have to fight to get 4 spaces, right? Or of every 1,000, they have to fight to get 40 spaces, right? And the other 9,960, 960 will not get a space based on the realities of this. So if you have 1,000 students, 960 will not get a space. And therefore, he's suggesting that the solution to 40 is sufficient for the country to be satisfied.
Not suggesting any at all that anything you've said is impractical, but let's look at it another practical way. You know very well, you're a Kingston boy.
Yes.
But in the rural areas, yes, it is a common sight to see gathered at a bus stop or a pickup point, convenient pickup point, because some rural areas there's no bus stop, but there's a convenient pickup point. Scores of children on any given day waiting to get picked up to be moved.
Correct.
Vaz is saying my buses or the government's buses guarantees carriage for those students in a way that they had not before. And even if their pockets are lined with dollars, it is useless because there just isn't the vehicle to move them from where they are to where they need to go. And the buses that he's providing provides a solution to that.
And that's where he's false, because though the scores are there, his buses will only create a satisfactory alleviation for only 4% of those students. So if there's 1,000 students standing in this collective space, his bus can only take 48 of those. Because of the number of seats available.
Yes, and the time between trips.
And the time between
is
trips.
what you're saying.
And so therefore, while it is that if he was able to move the 1,000, it would have been a grand plan, his inability to do so. Now, the assumption many Jamaicans are making is that specific to student buses has to be government-centered, and instead of a public-private partnership. But if you go into the rural spaces, there are multiple private carriers who are running school bus services.
Yes.
And so therefore, we would...
Because of demand.
Right. So we'd engage some of those persons as well to then do specific to student transportation. So this subsidy will allow for a person to run that specific to student transportation because they can get the reasonable returns.
So that point now brings me into the next segment of the discussion, because if it is that your position on the government's plan is as you've stated elsewhere and just here in the preceding minutes,
yes,
are you saying then that if a PNP administration takes the reins of government after the next election, you won't press Vaz's buses into service as part of the JUTC? You'd keep them as part of a school-centric thing, but you'd expand it by including public-private partners to fill out the blanks, and you'd run it that way, or you'd find another purpose for the buses? What would you do?
Our idea under the People's National Party accepts what happens with the airlines, the hub and spoke system.
Yes.
So many people are coming to Jamaica, they have to go into Miami and then come to Jamaica.
Right.
So that's a hub and spoke. So you still have to use from the interlands private sector persons to carry them out into the hub spaces. And when it reaches to the hub spaces, you will still have to engage further buses for it to make more sense than the immaterial 4%.
And I just want to establish for me in that answer that the buses that's as designated as school bus, if you take charge, you won't just say, well,
no, because we have the resource. Whatever the JLP buys in government now, the PNP will receive as a resource.
And it will be yours because you'll be government.
Yes, and it would be foolish to throw those resources.
Yes.
So while it is that what they're proposing in usage of the resource, and as I said, his assumption that he dwarfs our thing with children that don't even exist, we're saying that we will better utilize it by having the subsidy to 20,000 people, which is twice what they are able to transport. And that affects a targeted method that they don't affect, because the bus system currently is anybody get on. And so we're saying we go to the principal, the guidance counselor, find out who have absenteeism problem, research the reason, and then make the arrangements. They're saying that if you kick down the one another and push in and fight and get in, they're carrying us back to before JUTC.
Talk to me about the meals component of the PNP's plan for students, which of course is integrated, as I see it on paper, between moving them and feeding them.
Yes, because those two things have been proven to be basis of absenteeism. So getting to school has been proven a basis of absenteeism, and affording lunch has caused our parents not to send the children to school. The PNP has cited, first of all, that the subsidy for lunches is too small. It's $180 currently. We have seen recently a school indicating that they're only providing for 3 days. That's a promoter.
But that's internal though, because the ministry says that based on the allocation to the school, they have not spent the money in the ways that others who've been given the same allotment have spent it and are not in the problem that they are.
The truth is an enemy of the ministry because at $900 per week, any individual can realize no one can properly provide lunches for 5 days at $900 per week. No chef, no one. And multiple principals have made the call for an increase in the PATH program allocation. However, the PATH program is about 30% of the total students. And the research has been proven recently that 56% of Jamaicans have food insecurity, some graver than others. And so we have said that we will do the 56% of students, and we will do $400 as that allocation for the 190
You're putting on 220.
We're putting on 220. In retaliation, the government then rushed to say they will also do breakfast. That was never in their budget, never in any of their announcements, anything. And that $1 billion would be for 69,000 students, which is less than the number of PATH students, which is supposed to be the poorest. So how do you choose among the poorest who should get and who should not get? But the mathematics suggests that's $76 per day. Now, what is recommended for school feeding is 33% of the caloric necessity for the day. There's no way $76 can provide the caloric, 33% of the caloric necessity. So the JLP is throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, including JPS and everything, to try and surpass the People's National Party's favor among the people. And it is our duty to highlight those things as false and fraudulent.
Do you have a plan where the expansion of the productive capacity of Nutrition Products Limited is concerned? Because Nutrition Products Limited plays a good role in sending well, I don't know about the nutritional value, but it's still something that students get. You get a milk, you get a juice, you get a bun, you get a cake.
Well, a lot of us have focused on a belly full more than nutrients.
Yes.
So the feeling of being filled, but not having the nutrients.
Yes.
So what that has led to, for example, is that some of our girls experience a menstrual cycle, have iron deficiency, which leads to lethargy, feeling sleepy, not paying attention. Some of our boys have protein deficiency. So one of the most important part of learning is the nutrients, not the feeling of a belly full. But of course, we will engage the nutritional product, whether to manage or to do the job of getting these properly designed meals to the students.
Hear you on that. Whistle stop. Well, a whistle stop by the opposition spokesman on education, Senator Damian Crawford, talking about the PNP's plan for transportation and nutrition where students are concerned, and comparing and contrasting it with what the JLP has on the table. The good thing is that you get to decide which party has the better plan for education and for our students, especially those in rural Jamaica who have been for many decades a bit neglected where transportation especially is concerned. I spent time out of Kingston traveling to school. I can tell you, it was rough, yeah? Anyway, that's my time here on Lead Story on CVM TV. Thanks to Senator Damian Crawford, and thanks to you for watching. Good evening. The news